G'day folks, how you going? Coach Neil Kelliher back again, and time is it? 5:45 here in the Caribbean, so it's US Eastern Standard Time. Not sure what time you're on, UK, US, Australia, whatever. So anyway, today's topic, I'm going to do a couple of vids today. Actually, I'm going to do a few separate ones, I think, because I found the sweet spot is to keep them under 10 minutes. That way I can upload them in different places without them getting blocked, and also you can tend to pay attention for 10 minutes before you get sick of me. All right. So anyway, today, the first topic. All right. So how do you know it's, how can you tell the difference between corona and the flu? Like if you suspect you've got, one or the other, how can you tell the difference? Look, I mean, bottom line is, g'day Brad, bottom line is the symptoms, okay? So easy for me to say because I know, what they are and how to differentiate, but if you don't, then I'm going to tell you how right here, right now. If you haven't already realised or found out, the symptoms between the flu and a common cold and coronavirus are different, even though there are some crossover and some similarities, all right? So, for example, coronavirus, you tend not to get mucus in the nose, okay? Whereas a common cold and a flu, so rhinovirus, influenza, you tend to get mucus and, phlegm, snot from the nose, quite quickly after infection, all right? With the corona, you don't, okay? Not until, late stage pneumonia when you've got, tons of phlegm coming off your chest. All right, but that's not the initial stages. That's in a typical cold, rhinovirus, and typical flu, influenza, you will have nasopharyngeal symptoms quite quickly upon onset. So snot, basically. All right. So that's one way. The only definite way is to be tested, but depending where you are in the world, they're not going to test you if they think you've got a cold or flu. They can test for flu, all right, but they're not going to test you if they think you've got a common cold. They're not even going to use a corona test on you because there's a lack of testing and a lack of funding for testing or a lack of adequate testing in certain countries around the world, so they're reserving them for other people, which means you won't get a test. All right, so bottom line is the symptoms, okay? I'm going to post the symptoms below. There's a great infographic I found, which you can find yourself. Just search Google, go to coronavirus symptoms, Google images, and you'll get charts, all right? But I'll post it below anyway. All right, sorry, one sec. My fucking battery's going to go flat again. All right. So anyway, bottom line is the symptoms between coronavirus and the flu are different. Okay, so if you've got any nasopharyngeal symptoms, snot, mucus, etc., it's probably a cold or possibly a flu. All right. When it's the flu, you've got more serious body aches, pains, fatigue, etc., fever, which you tend not to get with a normal cold. All right. So they're the main differences. Obviously, with the corona, if you don't already know, you get that sore throat. Pretty. They think that's quite early onset. So within a few days of being infected, you get that sore, scratchy throat and dry cough. That's kind of the first actual sign you may be able to notice dramatically, and then you'll start to have fatigue, fever, body aches, typical flu-like symptoms. Before you're going to have those more serious, if you are going to have serious pneumonia in the lungs. Okay. So anyway, that's that one. Like I said, I'll post below you're welcome, Mary. I'll post below the infographic so you can see the particular different symptoms of normal cold, flu, and coronavirus. All right. Somebody did ask me, can you get both? And sadly, yes, you can. Different viruses. All right. You'd be fucking unlucky to get both, but it is possible. All right. But, I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because fucking how unlucky would you have to be? All right, but it is possible, which is why there's such a concern, for example, for Africa at the moment, all right? Because Africa, there's a huge population with HIV. Now, granted, most of it's under control with medication, but they're already immunosuppressed, all right? So they're already carrying the virus. If you were to get this virus on top of that virus, it could be catastrophic. It's already fucking catastrophic, clearly, as it's going. But imagine if it was to infect someone that has a very suppressed immune system, such as someone with HIV, and they live in a country where healthcare is very difficult to get, or even non-available, and it's particularly not ICU type stuff. So yes, you can get two viruses at the same time. You'd be very unlucky to get the flu and the coronavirus at the same time, but it's possible. All right? But at the end of the day, like I said earlier, I don't know if you saw what I posted up, but I said the good news is that by everything we're doing, all this social isolation, all the lockdowns, all the sanitizing and disinfecting and cleaning and distancing, it kills or it stops the spread of every bacteria and virus, not just coronavirus, right? So the flu, rhinovirus, rotavirus, norovirus, bacteria, staphylococcus, UTIs, like they're all being suppressed right now by the actions that we're all taking to get to stop the spread of coronavirus. So at the same time as we're stopping that spread, we're also stopping the spread of all these other ones. All right, so you'd be very unlucky to catch the flu and the coronavirus at the same time, but yes, it is possible. All right. Finally, so there's been a bit of talk about reinfection in the last few weeks it's been going on, because there was some testing that was done that found people were positive, and then they were negative, and then they were positive again. And the community experts and that were like, oh shit, can you get reinfected with the same strain? All right, it's highly unlikely. Okay, the reason being is because when you do get infected by a virus and you fight it naturally and you overcome it, you do create antibodies. Okay, and the antibodies are what protect you from that virus if you get it again. All right, so it's only if that virus mutates, which it will over time, but not in 2, 4, 6 weeks. We wouldn't think, because it hasn't done so far. Okay, this started in December. It has not mutated into a new strain as yet. There are 2 strains. Sorry, there's an L and an S. Okay, but they're not more deadly. They're just, one is more infectious than the other. So the L is more infectious than the S. Okay, but they're still from the same genetic family. There hasn't been that many mutations that it's a new strain. It's just two strains of the same genetic family. That can sometimes be confusing, but don't worry about the technology or the biology. Just, there's 2 strains, but they're not different mutations, all right? So anyway, what was I talking about? Reinfection. Yeah, okay, cool. So they thought that people may be getting reinfected because they were testing positive, then negative, then positive. What that turns out to be more than likely is that there was false negatives in the testing, and they were never negative, they were always positive. Okay, so these tests, these RT-PCR tests, RT-PCR, real reverse transcriptase polychain reaction, sorry if I buggered that up, all right, they're not entirely accurate, unfortunately. So you can get false positives, you can get false negatives, all right. Chris Fadick, how are you, buddy? So anyway, now getting back to reinfection, they've just, in the last week, I think they've completed this study, or maybe the last 2, they've done a study. Now this was an animal study, sorry, so unfortunately some animals were sacrificed, monkeys. All right, so they took 5 monkeys and they tested them. So they infected them with the virus, they monitored them, they swabbed them, nasopharyngeal and anally, okay, all the way through. They obviously, they didn't infect them too much, obviously, because they all recovered, okay. Then they sacrificed one of the monkeys, all right, and then they tested, they took a look inside to see where the monkey, I can't remember if it was a male or female, where the monkey was at in terms of the viral particles. Okay, and then they reinfected one of the ones that had recovered, and the one that had recovered, I think it was one, I'm not sure. I'll put the link to the study below. The one that recovered showed just a minor increase in body temperature after reinfection, but then it dropped back down. And then when they tested it, when they did 96 different swabs over the next course of however long, not a single trace of virus replication was found. In other words, his antibodies, or her antibodies, had created an immune response against the reinfection. All right. So bottom line is, it's only a 5-monkey study. It's not peer-reviewed yet, but it tends to demonstrate that you cannot be reinfected with the same strain, which is the whole point of herd immunity and immunity in general, and the whole point of vaccination. If and when they get a vaccine up and running in the next 12 to 18 months, you want it to be effective. If this thing was mutating and you could be reinfected, then that vaccine wouldn't be effective. All right. So the good news is, it looks like you cannot be reinfected with the same strain, which makes sense in all virology and epidemiology. Okay, so you should not worry about getting reinfected. It's possible you may get infected like today with a low inoculum, and you might be unlucky enough to get infected in 4 days with a high inoculum. And you won't get sick in the first 3-4 days, but you'll get sick in the next 3-4 days because you've got a higher dose from the second exposure. That's not reinfection. That's just compounded infection, unfortunately, on top of the initial infection. Okay, so that's about the only way you can catch this twice, is if you get a low inoculum in a couple of days and you get a high inoculum a few days later. You're not really catching it twice. You're just getting dosed up on viral particles. All right. Okay, so I think that's I'm going to hit my time limit there for that one. I think I'm not going to take any questions, folks. But what I'm going to do later on is going to do a Q&A. But I'll give you some notice on that one, and so you've got some time to hop on when you know I'm going to be here and ask any questions. All right. So on that note, thanks for watching. As always, I appreciate you popping on here. It's great to see a whole bunch of people paying attention to me. I appreciate that. Otherwise, stay safe, stay isolated, stay the fuck home. All right. I don't know where you're at with your country right now, but if you're not on lockdown, you should be and you will be. They might be doing it in stages because it's just too much to do all at once. But India just put 1.3 billion people on lockdown for 21 days. Because they're worried, because in India, they live very close together. If that thing spreads there, they'll be fucked. All right. Anyway, on that note, take care, be safe, take care of yourself. Look after your immune system. It's the only thing that's going to save you. Your government is not going to save you, particularly not if you're in the US or the UK or Australia, France, Germany, Spain. Forget it, all right? They've absolutely, they've done their dash. There's no way they can save you now. The only way you can save anyone can save anyone is you save yourself and your family and your loved ones and stay the fuck away from everybody else to save them. Okay, I'll talk to you in the next one. Stay safe, and don't forget, if you're not in my group yet, jump below my VIP group. I'll put the link. See ya.